Guys, the Wolves aren't terrible anymore. In fact, they've been quietly competing like a playoff team now. It would be the second time since 2004 where they've made the playoffs, which just goes to show how bad they've been for so long. We shouldn't take this newfound success for granted. In this video, I want to take a look at how they've become a good team, and no longer the laughingstock they were in previous years. How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and let's get started. Also, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe. If you like the content, drop a sub or a like, and thank you so much for the support. A cultural shift on defense. Their progress on defense is by far the most important factor to their success. They went from almost dead last in defense to an average defensive team, though they were actually near the top of the league in defense at the start of the season, but it kinda dropped off. Still, their defense is honestly a huge step forward compared to years past. In fact, up until this season, the Wolves had a bottom 10 defensive rating in every season since 2014. That's how abysmal they truly were. Now, everything is slowly starting to click. The Wolves force opponents to commit the most turnovers per game in the entire league, with nearly 17 forced turnovers a game. They're in the upper half in defending the three-point line as well, holding opponents to just 34.9% from three. That's in the middle of the pack, but that's still so much better compared to the 39.2% in the year prior, which meant they used to be worst in the league at defending the three by a large margin. I know everyone jokes about Patrick Beverley, or even criticize him for playing dirty, but the dude is still a legit perimeter defender. It's not just his defense, but his knack for calling out rotations, and being vocal to his teammates about having the discipline to defend, which this young team was missing. Beverley brings a level of tenacity and toughness on the perimeter that this team desperately needed. Not just him, but former second-round pick Jared Vanderbilt has turned out to be a pleasant surprise. For a long time, the Wolves have struggled to find somebody capable of playing alongside Towns, but Vanderbilt looks like that guy. He's such a versatile defender for a power forward. At times throughout the season, he took on the task of guarding the opposing team's best wing players. His value on defense isn't always shown on the box score, as he doesn't get a noticeable number of blocks, but he does contest the third most shots per game on this team. He's got quick hands too, hence why he's averaging about a steal and a half a game. All of that is quite impressive when you consider he only plays about 26 minutes a night. Additionally, Vanderbilt is a fantastic rebounder and great at cutting to the rim, two skills that complement Cat's game very well. Even without scoring much, Vanderbilt takes a lot of pressure off of Cat. He does all the dirty work and has all the intangibles. There's been a massive culture shift as well, brought upon by head coach Chris Finch. Finch had been a long-time assistant in the NBA, but on the teams he's been on, he's always encouraged his players to keep up the effort and will not hesitate to confront somebody if they're being lazy. This was evident in a February game against the Chicago Bulls. After a bad sequence on defense, he immediately called a timeout and scolded D'Angelo Russell. While I'm sure everyone loved Ryan Saunders, he was a pretty soft, laid-back coach, and was never as hard on his players compared to Finch. What's even better is that he's also got the full support of his players, because the results speak for themselves. When Patrick Beverley was asked about Finch, he said, "That's my guy. I don't have a lot of guys, so if I say he's my guy, it means a lot." Heck, even prior to the season, Finch knew that defense would be his #1 priority coming in. Quote, "We brought in guys with a defensive mindset. We brought in Patrick and Torian, retained Vando. Guys that play defense, enjoy playing defense, complement our core players both offensively and playing most of the defense while being out there." He knew what the team's weaknesses are, he knew what his stars were bad at, so they got guys to mitigate that. The thing is, there isn't anything special about the Wolves' defensive game plan. They're just doing the one thing they should have done for the past decade: maximize their athletic potential. If you look at the way they defend, they're moving all over the court, using their speed and length to disrupt passing lanes. They've built an identity around this, and if you have the effort and athleticism, it leads to success. Although there are times when it looks like their defense is out of control. Sometimes players are flying all over the court, and they aren't quite in the right spot. Actually, fatigue has been a factor as well, which Towns has mentioned. Perhaps they're relying too much on their physical ability, but not as much on their basketball awareness. That will get better over time. A new fluidity on offense. While defense has been their primary focus, their offense saw an even bigger jump, going from 25th to 9th. Prior to the season, Finch had a long talk to his three main guys, Towns, D'Lo, and Edwards. He knows that they're always going to get their numbers, but they need to be leaders, and they need to prioritize making their teammates better. There were two principles he stressed for the offense to improve on: ball movement and player movement off the ball. It starts with their stars. They need to lead by example. In an article by well-regarded Timberwolves writer Britt Robson, he emphasized, "For weeks, Finch had been subtly prodding his big three of Ant, Cat, and D'Angelo Russell to better engage in those first principles, rather than taking matters in their own hands in an individualized baton-passing fashion." It was a shrewd gambit from the coach that became a win-win for the roster. Each of the big three conceded that their eyes had been opened by the unselfish ball movement and dedicated player movement they witnessed from the sidelines. Plays like this, for example, nobody ever saw the Wolves do this in previous years, before Finch came here. Their newfound ball movement has done wonders for the team's morale because everyone's getting touches, everyone's getting involved. I mentioned earlier how Jared Vanderbilt plays so well alongside Cat. In fact, when the trio of Vanderbilt, Cat, and Russell are on the floor together, they got a whopping 123 offensive rating, with a +10 net rating. It's not just them either. Overall, the Wolves made a concerted effort to acquire players who would fit alongside their stars. Patrick Beverley is probably the perfect guy to pair alongside Russell. Not only does he provide a veteran voice, but taking the responsibility to guard whoever he needs to. He also elevated Russell's own defense by giving him advice. And now Russell is looking like the most complete player of his entire career. He's as good, if not better, compared to his All-Star season in Brooklyn. With many players moving in and out of the rotation due to injuries, the Wolves have basically played every lineup they possibly could play. So they've had ample opportunity to see what works best. For example, earlier in the season, Malik Beasley expressed frustration in moving to the bench, which, it makes sense. Previously, he was in the starting lineup alongside Russell, but the coaching staff realized that this wasn't gonna work. After the Wolves acquired him from Denver, Beasley quickly blossomed into a 20-point-per-game scorer. Yet, pairing him in the backcourt with Russell has always led to atrocious results. In the 2020-21 season, they had a -11 net rating with the two of them together. It was probably the worst defensive backcourt in the entire NBA. Since moving to the bench, Beasley's numbers regressed with less minutes and fewer touches, and he's now primarily a three-point shooter. But overall, it's been better for the team. Winning solves everything. Anthony Edwards also surprised a good amount of people. Yeah, I know he's the #1 pick, but he got so good so quickly. The Wolves spent years trying to pair Cat with a secondary star, and no major free agents are going to Minnesota. When they got Jimmy Butler in a trade, they looked good for a while, but him and Cat, the two of them had completely opposite personalities. However, the relationship between Cat and Edwards has grown tremendously since they came in. Cat admires how much Edwards loves the game, so much to the point where he wants to play through injuries. That's a staggering level of dedication. There were debates before on whether or not Cat really wants to stay in Minnesota after his contract expires, especially with all the losing. But with Edwards on the path to stardom, plus the Wolves' newfound success, things are looking bright for the first time in a while in the Twin Cities. And that's all, folks. Let me know your thoughts on the Wolves in the comment section. Where do you project them going in the next few seasons? Can they build upon this progress and make an even bigger jump into contender status? Do you guys see this team as like the next OKC? Thank you all so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.